Before we get into today's game, I want to talk about the sponsors for my channel. Card Conduit is the best way to sell your unused Magic cards. Whether you've got a box of unsorted bulk, or a complete and alphabetized set, there's a great option for everyone. With a payout averaging 19% better than using any one buy list, and that's after fees are applied, you can rest assured you'll get the best bang for your buck. If you're a skeptic like me, their easy customer service and detailed reports make the whole interaction transparent and safe. And if you use the affiliate link in the description below, or the promo code MTGMUDSTA, you'll save 10% off their fees. And 401 Games, Canada's one-stop shop for trading cards, board games, and hobby supplies. Not to mention an easy-to-use and great online buy list. And if you use the promo code MTGMUDSTA, your first purchase of MTG Sealed and Singles will be 5% off. Known for their awesome sleeves and deck boxes, did you know that Dragon Shield also has an app? It's true, they've got MTG Card Manager. Using your phone, you can scan your collection in any language, and get real-time information on the language and price of the card. There's even a handy deck building feature allowing you to put that collection into decks, so you know where each card is. You can find MTG Card Manager out now in any applicable app store. Today's patron shoutout goes to Amy. Thanks Amy for supporting me through Patreon. Hey gang, and welcome back. In today's game, Maximus, Mika, and Ian have rejoined me. Maximus is playing his Sivitri deck, keeping a Mistvault Bridge, Sunken Hollow, Lonely Sandbar, Skullclamp, Relic of Progenitus, Spark Double, and Tezzeret, Master of the Bridge. I am still testing out my Bello deck, keeping Exotic Orchard, Wooded Ridgeline, Decimate, Two Mountains, Berserker's Onslaught, and Eidolon of Blossoms. Ian is playing his Dungeon Delving Rasaad deck, keeping Idyllic Beachfront, Two Plains, an Island, Swords to Plowshares, Dragon's Eye Savants, and Refuse to Yield. Last but not least, Mika is playing my cat food deck, keeping Greta Sweet Tooth Scourge, Swamp, Greater Good, Wicked Wolf, Arcane Signet, Wood Elves, and a Forest. Maximus wins the die roll and starts us off. He draws and plays a tap Mistvault Bridge. Mika's got a tap Bajuka Bog, which exiles nothing and passes. I followed their example with a tapped Wooded Ridgeline and passed to Ian. Never one to do what everyone else does, Ian plays an untapped Command Tower and passes. Maximus draws and cycles a Lonely Sandbar, drawing again. He then plays a Shrine of Forsaken Gods, and then casts a Relic of Progenitus. He passes to Mika after that. Mika has one of the best turn 2s with a Swamp and then a Mana Rock, casting Arcane Signet. I just draw, play a Mountain, and pass. Ian's turn has an Island coming in, and he plays his first big butt with a Dragon's Eye Savants. Maximus plays a Sunken Hollow, and then pays 1 for Skullclamp. Mika's got a Forest return, and pays 3 for Wood Elves. He goes to grab Overgrown Tomb, which comes in tapped, and passes. I don't have much going on, just playing an Exotic Orchard and passing. Ian draws and plays a Plains, and he then casts the first half of his commander with Rasaad. He then goes to combat and swings the Dragon's Eye Savants at max for 6. Before damage, Max activates the Relic to send a message, and after that, he takes the 6 and Ian passes. Max's turn has him playing a Hall of Tagsin, and he then casts Sivitri. He then downticks her, going to find the secret commander of the deck, which is Shimmer Dragon, and he passes after that. Mika draws, plays a Swamp, and casts Ygra turn early. I've got a Reliquary Tower for turn, and just ramp with a Rampant Growth, and pass. Ian's got an Island, and he goes to combat. He swings his Commander and Dragon's Eye Savants at me, and I take a total of 9. Max then adds Insult to Injury, and taps his Relic to make me exile the Rampant Growth. With nothing else, Ian passes. Maximus draws and upticks Sivitri. He then casts Spark Double as a copy of his commander. He then upticks his copy as well and passes to Mika. Mika's got an Urborg for turn, and he then casts Greta, which makes a food token as it enters, plus she's a food token because of Ygra. He then follows up with a Wicked Wolf, and as it comes in, he fights Rasaad. Rasaad gets taken out, and he gets to put 2+1/+1 counters onto Ygra. Moving to combat, Mika then hits Ian for 8 with Ygra, and passes turn. My turn has me drawing a mountain, and then casting a Hedron Archive. I've still got enough for an Eidolon of Blossoms, drawing a card as it enters, and I then pass turn. Ian draws and plays an idyllic beachfront. He then casts the best creature in EDH, Flumph, and passes. Maximus draws and plays a Vault of Whispers. He then upticks his 2 Sivitris and passes. Mika's got the companion piece to Urborg with a Cabal Coffers, and he activates it and taps out to make a total of 12 mana. He uses 4 of it to kill the Spark Double by casting Mortality Sphere, but Maximus responds with a Spell Swindle and counters it. Mika uses the remainder of his mana to help then cast Greater Good, and then Shoulder the Apocalypse. He then goes to combat. He swings the Wicked Wolf at the real Sivitri, and Ygra at the Spark Double Sivitri, and takes a total of 8 damage from his attacks. Maximus in response cracks the Relic of Progenitus, drawing a card, but finds nothing to save his Sivitris, and they both die. With nothing else, Mika passes. I draw a card and lose 2 to Shouldered, and I then cast Cultivate. I play a forest that I get, and put a mountain into play. I then cast Alchemist Talent, losing 2 as I draw a card from the Eidolon because Shouldered sees it. I then uptick the talent and pass to Ian. Ian draws and plays an island. He then recasts his commander and passes to Max. Maximus's turn 7 has him drawing and casting Lightning Greaves. He then passes, and during his end step, Mika sacrifices the Wood Elves to the Wicked Wolf to both grow it and Ygra. He then sacrifices his food token to do the same. He then surprisingly sacrifices Ygra to Greater Good, drawing 12 and then discarding 3, but he also gains 24 life because of Shouldered. Mika draws and plays a command tower, and then recasts Ygra. This has Maximus responding by countering it with an access denied, and he gets 5 Thopter tokens. Mika then follows up with an Avenger of Zendikar, making a bunch of plant tokens, and then passing after that. I've got a Copperline Gorge as my land for turn, which comes in tapped, and I then cast Talisman of Impulse. I follow it up with Decimate to take out Shouldered, Urborg, Greater Good, and Skullclamp. I then cast Bello, and I go to combat. I swing my now 4/4 Eidolon of Blossoms and Alchemist Talent at Mika. He blocks them with both of his 5/5s, and I then pass turn. Ian's turn has him drawing and playing a Displacer Beast, which lets him venture into the last mine of Phandelver. He then casts Fly on Rasaad. Going to combat, he swings his commander at Mika, which has Mika then taking 3 and Ian venturing into the next room. He then makes a treasure token and passes. Maximus draws, cracks his treasure token, and then casts Simmer Dragon. He then moves a Lightning Greaves onto the dragon, and he taps 4 Thopters, drawing 2. He then finally gets to play a land with an Odawara, and he then uses it to help cast Drafna's Restoration. This allows him to put the Skullclamp on top of his library, and he then passes to Mika. Mika draws and plays a forest, which pumps all of his plants by 1. He then casts a Demonic Tutor, and goes to find a card, and follows up with Peregrine Took, and then a Marionette Apprentice. With the Apprentice coming in, he gets a Fabricate trigger, and he makes a Servo token, which also makes a food as well, and he then goes to combat. He swings his plants at Maximus, who doesn't want to lose his Shimmer Dragon to combat trick and decides not to block. An Avenger of Zendikar goes at me. We both take our hits, and Mika passes. I draw and level up Alchemist Talent to the final level, and then cast Fire Emancipation. This draws me a card off the Eidolon as it comes in, and I then crack a treasure to help play Greater Good, drawing a card as it enters as well. This has Alchemist Talent also dealing 4, which is tripled to 12 to each of my opponents. I then go to combat. I swing the Fire Emancipation and Greater Good at Mika, who blocks with a Servo token and Wicked Wolf. Before damage, he sacrifices a food to Wicked Wolf, which deals damage to us with a Marionette Apprentice, and he saves the wolf because it's now indestructible. With nothing else, I pass. Ian draws and plays a Hammer Pashar, and if that wasn't enough, then cast Dungeon Delver. Going to combat, he swings Rasaad at Mika. Mika takes the hit for 3, and Ian gets to venture again. He then gets to triple the room, and he drains us all for 3 from the Lost Mine of Delver. He then passes, and during his end step, Max taps his Greaves and a Servo to draw a card with the Shimmer Dragon. Maximus draws and plays a Skull Clamp, and then clamps a Thopter token to draw 2. He then plays an Island for turn, and then clamps his remaining Thopters to draw a total of 8. He then taps the Clamp and the Greaves, drawing from the Shimmer Dragon, and he goes to combat. He hits Mika for 5 in the air with a Shimmer Dragon, and with nothing else, passes turn. Mika's turn has him playing a Forest, and he pumps his plant tokens again. He then replays Ygra and goes to combat. He swings 4 plants at me, and the rest go at Ian. I block 2 plants, which Mika sacrifices to Wicked Wolf to grow it and drains the table further. Ian then blocks, and Mika sacrifices his 3 block creatures to the Wicked Wolf, growing it even bigger and draining us again. Afterwards, Mika sacrifices the rest of his board to drain Max and I to death, and then passes to Ian. Ian draws, and without any outs to Mika in his hand or what he drew, knows when he's beat and scoops it up.
Game review time. This game was about 50 minutes long, and yeah, I think a board wipe would have probably helped, at least with the plant tokens from Ygra, although it seemed like between him sacrificing it and it getting taken out, Mika really didn't have his commander out all that much. I say his commander, but it was my deck. But the deck is really, really strong. There's the Marionette Master and the Marionette Apprentice, which are payoffs for sacrificing basically any creature you have because they're all artifacts. And Wicked Wolf really impressed me. I wasn't thinking too much of it. I know it did well in Standard, but this card slaps in the deck. I was really, really impressed with it. It fights as soon as it comes in, it's an infinite sacrifice outlet, it's indestructible, it's just really, really strong in the deck. Greater Good was also crazy. He drew so many cards. Plus, the shoulder being out had him gaining like 24 life. Bello, again, I'm really into the Bloomborough decks. I think they're super cute aesthetically, but also functionally, they're really, really good. I like the idea of Ygra. Bello turning enchantments into creatures is a lot of fun. It honestly feels like you don't even need the Enchantress package in Bello because you're drawing so many cards from the enchantments actually connecting. On the flip side though, unfortunately, Ian's Rasaad Dungeon Delver deck just kind of stalled. He didn't run too many creatures that had big toughness, and by the time that he was able to get into a dungeon and start things moving, things are a little bit slow. He also really wants to have the initiative, not just in being in a dungeon, because that's how Rasaad works better, but it just didn't get there this game. Maximus's Sivitri deck seemed like it potentially could have been dangerous with the Dark Double out and having 2 of the upticks, meaning that we were going to take a lot of damage when we attacked. But as you saw, Mika was happy to spend that life to do it, especially probably since he was having so many food tokens so he could gain that life back. And yeah, his secret commander is Shimmer Dragon because 90% of the deck is artifacts, so it basically means that as soon as it's out, he's just drawing cards like crazy. And he did. There was that last turn where it seemed like he was skull clamping and just tapping and just which is awesome. But if you don't run into any of your payoffs, you run into a lot of trouble.
This video wouldn't be possible without the help from my sponsors, but it definitely wouldn't be possible without the help from you, the viewers, and my patrons. So I just want to say thank you for watching, and to remember, friends are just opponents you haven't eliminated yet.